Shalom, I'm Mark Regev, and I'm pleased to be with you for another episode of Israel Undiplomatic. And as per usual, I'm here with my co-host, the energetic Ruthie Blum.
Hi, Mark. Before we start, I'd like to remind everybody or request of everybody to please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. And also to inform everybody that JNS is going to have its first inaugural annual policy conference, international policy conference, on April 28th at the Waldorf Astoria in Jerusalem. And you can register at the bottom of the description on this video. So, Mark, let's get to it. I'd like to talk today about the topic that's on the mind of all Israelis and probably much of the world, and that is President Trump's ultimatum to Hamas that if all the hostages aren't returned by this Saturday at noon, all hell will break loose, he said. And he said this in more than one way. And this time, however, he basically said, he indicated that what it meant was the deal was off, the deal with Hamas is off, and that Israel can do whatever it needs to do to demolish Hamas.
So, but in many ways, it's a bit of an ultimatum on the cheap, because Ruthie, he said, Israel can do what it wants. Without specifying what we could or couldn't do. And I think there's a tough choices here for Netanyahu, because the American president has said to him, you know, if all the hostages don't come out, and he's used the word all, yes, on this coming Saturday, then all hell can break loose. But there's a deal in place that the Trump team also was part of and helped negotiate. Steve Witkoff was part of it. And that says 3 people are supposed to come out on Saturday. And so the question is, does Netanyahu abide by the deal agreed with, or does he go with what the president has said, which says unless they release everyone on Saturday, which everyone knows is not going to happen. I can't see any likelihood of that at all happening. We go back to war. Now, it's clear if Hamas doesn't release any hostages on Saturday, we're back to war. The ceasefire is over. That's 100% clear. But if they release 3 people and they say the following week they'll release another 3, in the first phase of this deal, they're supposed to release an additional 9 Israeli hostages. And there's a question here. To what extent are those 9 lives worth continuing the deal for the time being?
No, let's be more accurate. By the end of the 6-week ceasefire, there were going to be a total of 33 out of 79 or something hostages released. Hamas already announced that 8 of those 33 are dead.
Correct.
Now, what's remaining are 17. And so what we know is, according to Hamas, 9 of those 17 are alive. So what happened after but listen, Trump didn't just announce that out of the blue. He announced that ultimatum for 2 reasons. The first was that Hamas released 3 hostages who looked like they had just come out of a concentration camp, although all the hostages were abused and tortured and all kinds of horrific things done to them, and we know that already. But the second thing that happened was that Hamas announced that it would not release any hostages on Saturday until further notice, claiming that Israel had violated the agreement by not letting enough humanitarian aid enter Gaza. So first of all, that's a big fat lie. There are trucks going in there, which is already a bad thing. All right, all that, according to the deal, all we're doing is keeping Hamas in power by giving it humanitarian aid. And that is one of the worst parts of this deal. So that's the first thing. Hamas first said, is the first to say, no, we're not going to release 3. So now let's say,
It's true.
Okay. And now Netanyahu, after Trump made that ultimatum, Netanyahu convened the security cabinet, and they sat there for a long time. He emerged and he made a statement to the public. And he said, if the hostages, if our hostages are not released by Saturday, the deal is off. Something like that. I'm just paraphrasing. But he was very non-specific about the number. But when you say if our hostages are not released, that would imply all of them.
Ruthie, Netanyahu knows the value of the spoken word. And when he chose to be deliberately ambiguous, when he said we want our hostages released without saying a number and with deliberately not using the word all, he basically wants to keep his options open. One of the reasons maybe Hamas is causing all these last-minute problems and announcing that they don't want, they're not going to release the 3 hostages that they're committed to release this coming Saturday, I think maybe was the reaction to those hostages who were released last Saturday. Because it was not just President Trump. I think anyone who saw the pictures was shocked by the emaciated state of these people. They really did look like they've just come out of a year in a concentration camp, yes? They look terrible. And my assumption is that the people, the live hostages that still have to be released in this phase, which I believe is 9, that their situation is worse. Because Hamas, I think, has released the more healthy-looking ones at the beginning, and as we release more, we're going to see, unfortunately, more hostages in a terrible, terrible situation. And Hamas can probably feel the backlash that will come from this. And that's maybe why they were having second thoughts about releasing or not releasing. Their accusation, their claim that Israel is somehow not fulfilling its part of the deal is, of course, baloney. They say Israel has continued shooting at Palestinians. Of course we have, when they break the ceasefire, when they go places where they're not allowed to go under the ceasefire. And of course we've done everything we can to allow the aid in according to the agreement. Hamas here is playing games, and it's clear. But you haven't contradicted my point, and I think you agree with me, that Netanyahu faces a dilemma now. If they don't release anyone on Saturday, as they have threatened to do, then Netanyahu has no dilemma. We go straight back in, we fight, we continue our consistent action of destroying Hamas's military machine and ending their rule over Gaza and to bring back the hostages militarily. But if they release the 3 and not all, so there's a dilemma. Because on one hand, they've kept their contractual obligation as negotiated with the blessing also of the Trump administration, but they haven't released them all. And what should Netanyahu do? I'm asking you, Ruthie, what should Netanyahu do in that sort of situation?
Okay, so Netanyahu is facing a Sophie's choice. You wouldn't want to be in his shoes right now. Here's the problem. He has, on the one hand, President Trump, who is watching him to see if he's going to chicken out, so to speak, and not use Israel's full force against the terrorists. He has, on the other hand, the families of the 3, if 3 are released, obviously those families will be thrilled. And then he's got, on the other side, the many, many who aren't even coming home in the first part of the deal, who are afraid that we won't go to the second phase. And they're screaming everybody out now. And so he's facing these families, those families. And here we go. How about some other terrible choices? If we send soldiers back in there, what about the families of the soldiers? All those soldiers, there'll be more dead soldiers having to take care not to bomb structures where hostages may be being held. Okay, now the one good part was that Trump did not say, if you go back in, don't kill any innocent Palestinians. He did not say that because he's not Biden or Blinken. He said, tough on them. If they want, let them get out of there, okay? And that's his plan for the day after. The question, though, is, what do you mean we send in, all the troops are getting ready. We have reservists being called up again, okay? To do what? If we don't have control of the Netzarim corridor, which we've already left?
No, it's clear. It's clear. If they break the
You say
agreement.
it's clear. I say, is it clear?
Yes.
Do we then retake everything and then we go back in? Now, we were told, we are hearing reports that it's very likely that if that's the scenario, that Hamas will then begin attacking Israel again. Hezbollah will try to attack from the north. And the Houthis have warned that if we go back in, they will resume.
So, Ruthie, the Houthis have warned and they could well come back in with their missiles. Hezbollah agreed to a ceasefire with Israel before there was the ceasefire with Hamas. The two are not related. So it's not clear at all that Hezbollah would rejoin the war. They have every reason not to do it. They have no justification in Lebanon whatsoever. They were beaten. They no longer have the Assad regime supporting them and supplying them with weapons. I can't exclude the possibility. Israel has to plan for worst case scenarios. That's the job of the military. That's the job of the government. But having said that, I think the chances of Hezbollah rejoining the fight are much, much lower. It's clear to me that if Hamas breaks the deal and doesn't release what it committed to do this coming Saturday, then Israel, all bets are off. We can go back to Netzarim. We go back to Philadelphia. We can go wherever we want. The minute they break the agreement, it's from Israel's point of view, we are free to do whatever we need to do in Gaza to destroy Hamas.
Okay, so here's the next scenario. 3 hostages are released and they're in dire straits. Okay, 3 are released. Then what? And then we wait. Trump said, none of this dribs and drabs anymore. 3 here, 2 there. No. So here's what I'm going to ask you. Okay, 3 come back. And then Netanyahu says, okay, well, they kept their part of the bargain. And then we inch closer to the second phase of the deal, which is suicidal for us. So we can't go into that second phase. But of course, the reason we had to agree to it in the first place was because of the families of the hostages, mainly those who are not on the list to be returned in the first phase.
So let's, first of all, if we can get another 9 live Israelis out in the first phase, I think that's worth doing. I agree with you 100% that the second phase is very difficult because if Hamas basically wants us to pull out of Gaza in that second stage, and so they can declare victory and they'll continue controlling Gaza and they'll start on day 1 trying to rebuild their military machine. Okay? And Israel can't agree to that, full stop. And I'm very, as much as I'd like, everything to succeed, I don't think it's a realistic expectation that this second stage is going to work. But at least if we can get people out now in the first stage, we should be implementing the first stage. We should get everyone alive that it's possible to get them out. If we can get some of the bodies out also, that's good and important for the families. Think about the Bibas family who wants closure, and there are other families in this first stage. So this agreement could fall apart this Saturday if Hamas doesn't fulfill its obligations. It could fall apart next Saturday if they choose then not to keep their obligations, or it could go all the way through to the second stage.
Which would be a disaster. We shouldn't have signed this deal to begin with.
But that's
it's a
water under the
disastrous
bridge.
deal.
That's water under the bridge.
It's water under the bridge, but it's now coming closer. So here's the thing. I really, as I said, I don't envy Netanyahu, and I don't know what I would do in his shoes. And I don't know what I would do if I were the parent of a hostage. I cannot say, all right? I do know, as a parent of a reservist, how I feel on that end. I do feel that all those soldiers who died, they better not have gotten killed in vain. And you said Hamas will consider it a victory if the second phase goes through?
No, if the second phase, because the second phase is open. The second phase,
right.
You know what Hamas is demanding.
But they won't even have to consider it a victory. It will be a victory for Hamas. Listen, Hamas is already, look at what they're doing. We said we've destroyed most of their military capabilities. Look at them. They keep recruiting new terrorists. Look at the droves of Hamasniks who come out to jeer at the hostages being released. Look at the children in their headbands and their military fatigues. That place is a hornet's nest. And that's why Trump said afterwards, we're emptying out that place and we're going to level it to the ground. Good for him, because that's exactly what should happen. And that's exactly what he's working on. But I fear that he will lose all respect for Netanyahu if he says, okay, fine, so 3, all right, so we won't do anything. I have a feeling. Now, what we could do, I would say, is if 3 come out, we can take the opportunity of all the violations Hamas has done so far, like terrorists approaching the fence, the border fence, and we say the 3 came out, and now no more humanitarian aid into Gaza. We have to change that deal, whatever it is. We have to. With the humanitarian aid, we cannot beat the terrorists. We cannot.
So I disagree, because if we wait until this weekend to get 3 out before we do anything, then the same logic says let's wait for the next week to get another 3 live people out, and another week. In other words, if you're saying it's worth waiting to get 3 out, it's surely logical to say let's wait another week to get more people out. And I think that is the sad reality of when you're working with a despicable organization like Hamas. And you are right when you say, I don't agree with everything you say, but you are right when you say that Hamas, unfortunately today, and we see this, they have the guns on the ground in Gaza, and they have the ability to control Gaza if we are not there. And the best thing that proves this is we know from, it's been in the press, intelligence briefings, where they say that Hamas has deliberately kept units out of the fight with Israel, kept them underground, kept them in waiting for the day after. So the minute there's a vacuum, if Israel's not there, they can reassert violently, killing all their opponents, reassert political control over Gaza. And from Israel's point of view, that is the worst case scenario, because then you're just back to square one and we're just waiting for another war to happen, because Hamas in control of Gaza is just more of the same. And we can have another 7th of October and another and another. We have to end this war, that Hamas is no longer in control of Gaza. Now, the truth is, Trump has said over and over again, Hamas can't be led. The Europeans have said it, other people have said it. The Arabs don't say it publicly, but privately, none of the Arab countries want Hamas to stay in control of Gaza. We have to finish the job, and we will.
But look, and we were finishing the job. And then the Biden administration tied our hands with the humanitarian aid business, tied our hands with withholding weapons, etc. Okay, a new sheriff is in town, thank God. And here is our opportunity. What did we do though? The deal is ass backwards, okay? We should be saying to Hamas, if you don't return all the hostages, if you do return all the hostages, then we will let you have some food and some electricity. That's how you do it. The other way around, we are on the end of the losers with a deal like this, where Hamas sets the terms. We're supposed to be setting terms. You want to live? You want to eat? You want to have electricity? You better do what we say. Right now, it's Hamas dictating the terms. That's how it has come. Hamas says, really? You want your son and daughter back? Maybe alive, maybe dead. We'll see. Maybe the Bibas family are alive. Maybe they're dead. You want them back? Okay, cough it up.
So that's the difficulty when you're negotiating with these terrible, horrific terrorists. That's the bottom line. And I remember when this deal was signed, what was it, 3 weeks ago? Just at the time of just before the inauguration, though, with Trump's people involved very much in getting the deal signed. We knew that there'd be a price here. But Israel decided to, at this stage, while, there are 3 goals of this war in Gaza. 1, destroy Hamas's military machine. 2, end their political control of the Gaza Strip and get all the hostages out, and all of them are equally important. And we made a decision now, the government, and at the time you were not in favor, but you also weren't so much against. You said we have to wait and see how this plays out. That's what I recall you saying. But the whole point is, now we've got this deal. I don't think Israel can unilaterally pull out of the deal. We have to wait for Hamas either to break the deal or for something else to happen. But the idea that every week, for the next 3 weeks, we're going to get 3 live hostages out, I don't think that's something that Israel should pull out of unilaterally. We can show Trump, Netanyahu can show Trump, that we are tough and we know how to fight when the right time comes. And unfortunately, that time will come pretty soon anyway.
Well, I don't know then what the purpose of Trump's announcement was and his ultimatum. Because
So
what
ask
he was
him, what
saying,
is the purpose?
No, he was saying, well, one purpose could be that he, being a real estate negotiator, he makes the harshest terms and then, maybe we'll negotiate. He starts from the strong point, and that what Israel did not do. Now, in fairness, Israel was under the thumb of the disastrous Biden administration, and so you have to give, Netanyahu, you have to have some understanding for Netanyahu. Israel can't operate in a vacuum without American help, but that was extreme. And what Trump was saying is, okay, you go to your maximalist position, and then maybe you'll get something out of it.
But so, okay, I'm asking you specifically, okay?
Yeah.
My position I've stated. I'm saying if they release 3 hostages, we should continue with the deal. You're saying if they release the 3 hostages, we should nevertheless go back to full-scale war?
No, what I'm saying is we need to threaten them. Because first of all, why do we have to stick to the deal? Wait a minute.
We don't have to, only if it's in our interest to do so.
No, and why is it in our interest?
Because we'll get another 3 hostages.
Will we? No, but
let's wait and see.
No, but we'll see, because what we don't know, what we do know is there's no way Hamas, at even the end of the second phase, we know that Hamas is not going to release all the hostages. We know it. You know why? Because it's their only leverage. It's the only thing that keeps them in power.
Correct.
So we know that, and they know that we don't want dead people.
If you can save 9 lives by having a bit of patience.
Okay, but nine. No. You're saying 9 lives. What about another 60? I mean, you're talking. You realize you're still talking about what about all the other people? So what I'm saying is, whatever you do is no good, right? Whatever you do, there is a fear on somebody's part that the Hamas will say, okay, fine, so we'll execute all the hostages, which, by the way, maybe they've already executed tons of them or starved them to death. We don't know exactly the condition. We know from information received from returning hostages, some information. We don't have all the information. But here's the thing. That's why this is an impossible choice and why Hamas has the upper hand. So how do you say to Hamas, you don't have the upper hand? Okay, whether let's say we don't immediately go in with troops, but we certainly can withhold the humanitarian aid.
Not as part of the deal, you can't.
But who said we have to stick to that stupid deal?
Once again,
Biden is not in power anymore.
Correct. But I'd remind you, and I've said it twice, I think already, the Trump team was part of negotiating the deal, and Trump took credit for the deal, and his people were on the ground
and
here.
now listen to him. Now he's saying...
he's changed his tune.
Exactly.
But once again, I said at the beginning of this, I said this was being tough on the cheap because it's Israel's cause. It's Israel's people that are going to get killed either way, right?
Yes, but he gave us a green light to ignore that ridiculous deal. He
never
said
that explicitly.
He said, if all the hostages are not back by noon Saturday, it's all off. Now, what is the likelihood that we're going to see 76 people and dead bodies coming at It's not going to happen. Which means that Trump said, as far as he's concerned, there is no deal if not all the hostages. So what are we going to do? We're going to chicken out? We don't have to stick to that deal.
We spoke before about Netanyahu maybe keeping his options open, having some ambiguity. When Trump said all the hostages, some people thought, right, that he meant all the hostages of the coming release, right?
And he didn't.
Afterwards, he clarified, and it was clear that he didn't mean that.
Right.
But I agree with you when you said before, is he just negotiating from a maximum position? Does he really expect them all to be released this coming Saturday? And once again, I want to say this. Right? I, of course, would want to see all the hostages released this coming Saturday, just as every other Israeli would. And I think any person who's got a heart in their chest, yes, get all the hostages out. But if Israel reneges on the deal and we go back to fighting and we will win and we will destroy Hamas, we don't know what will be the fate of the hostages. I don't think we can do I'm really doubtful about stage 2 of this deal, right? And that's a lot of people left in Gaza. But if we can save, right, every life you save, and it's only a temporary pause in the war, and that's why we agreed to it. And so I would urge Netanyahu to be cautious. I would urge Netanyahu to keep his options open. I would urge Netanyahu to say, if we sign this deal at the request of the incoming president, the new president, right? Now, you're saying he's changed his position. I haven't heard him say once that the current deal should be thrown out.
He did. He basically said, listen,
No. It's inferred. It's inferred.
No. Okay, listen. He said, if they're not there by noon Saturday, all the hostages, there is no deal. What he's doing now, he's doing a very important thing. He knows not all the hostages are going to be returned. So what he's doing is he's switching the balance of power here. It is not that, okay, we'll have a ceasefire and you'll be nice to us and give us in dribs and drabs 3 people and 3 other people and 3 people who are at death's door and then a few dead bodies. No, what he's saying is, no, we say, you get those 3 people on Saturday as you agreed to. And in the meantime, if you want, you get or 9 people or whatever number or all of them. And in the meantime, no humanitarian aid is going into Gaza. If you want something from us, you've got to beg for it, not the other way. We're the beggars. We're the beggars. We have to tell them, you either do that or you get your electricity shut off.
So I think that those sorts of threats we should save for either when Hamas breaks phase 1 of the deal or when the negotiations for phase 2 break down. But as long as you've got momentum, right, where they are releasing more and more Israelis, which they're committed to do, if they do it or not, we'll have to wait and see. I would think it's a mistake to pull out, though once again, I'm sure there are conversations. I mean, our whole conversation is being based on what Trump is saying publicly, on the assumption that there is talk constantly going on that we're not privy to. Both of us are out of government, yes? That what is the Trump administration actually saying? Are they saying, they could theoretically be saying, there could be a conversation, let's say, between the new national security advisor in Washington and someone like Ron Dermer in Israel, and they could be saying something like Trump is by saying this is putting pressure on Hamas so that they will follow through on the deal and not renege, right? And you don't know what they're saying privately.
No, we don't. No, we don't know what they're saying. And I also suspect, here's another possibility, that this is also Trump's pressure on Netanyahu. It's a kind of pressure, not at all like the Biden's pressure, no, of the opposite kind. This is the kind that reminds me of, that Trump had 2 issues personally with Netanyahu, not with Israel. Trump never had a problem with Israel, but with Netanyahu specifically. One was, whether this is true or not, he claims that Netanyahu chickened out at the last moment, helping America assassinate Qasem Soleimani. And the second was when Biden was elected, President Netanyahu called to congratulate him, which of course he had to do. But both of those things caused Trump to be pissed off with Netanyahu. And now it seems like the honeymoon is back. I have a feeling that this statement he made when he said all that, and then he said, of course, Israel can override it. I heard that as a message to Netanyahu. Of course, it's up to you if you want to chicken out of, taking a leadership stand here and doing what is necessary, including if you're putting some hostages at risk, because they're all at risk anyway.
Correct.
They're all at risk anyway. And then the question is, what we are doing, we have been begging Hamas, ceasefire, and all they're doing is regrouping. You see it, okay? And the humanitarian aid is giving them fuel, and it's giving them money in order to recruit more terrorists. So I think that this was also a challenge that Trump was presenting to Netanyahu.
That's also Netanyahu's dilemma, because when you've got an administration in Washington that is tough with you, you're tough back. Vis-a-vis Netanyahu Biden. But when you've got an administration that is giving you all the weapons that you want and giving you all the diplomatic support that you want and is saying to you these Hamas terrorists can't run Gaza anymore and is being unequivocal.
Is agreeing with you.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then it's a bear hug because they said, and I need you to do A, B, and C, right? That particular bear hug is one I like.
I don't like the other. No, that is not a bear hug. I think Biden's bear hug was all that crap about we have your back, and they were stabbing us in the back. No, Trump's is not a bear hug. It's okay. Put your money where your mouth is, okay? You're one of the world's great leaders, Netanyahu. You are faced with an impossible situation with these bloodthirsty terrorists. You're somebody who has said all along you don't negotiate with terrorists. Okay, here I am. I'm the president of the United States. I have already figured out a solution for after Gaza. I'm going to empty it, level it out. I don't care about Palestinian state, all of that. And now I'm going to give you a free hand to blitz the crap out of them.
Once again,
you tell me if that's not a challenge.
But that's just it. I said before, this is threats on the cheap because he's asking Israel to do it. It's Israel's soldiers who'll be fighting in Gaza, not American soldiers. It's Israelis hostages that could be killed, not American hostages. And so let's be clear here. The responsibility is on Netanyahu's shoulders.
It is.
And he has to take these decisions. Now, if we need to go back to fight, we will go back to fight and we will win. And anyway, as I say, I'm very doubtful that the stage 2 of the deal will kick in, which means anyway, sometime in March, we're back at fighting. But if in the meantime, we can get some people out, some of the hostages out, I don't think you should minimize the importance of that, especially since that deal has already been signed. Stage 2, once again, unless Hamas suddenly decides that they've had enough, it's not going to happen. And for those reasons, I just think I'd also like, right? I don't want a situation where you get some people saying to Israel, you broke the deal, you agreed to this and you're moving away.
Oh, who cares what some people say about Israel? The world has been against Israel from the beginning. Trump does not say that. Okay, excuse me, what do you mean? Some people will say, no matter how many trucks went into Gaza, the world said that we were committing war crimes and genocide. Screw the world already. Trump is giving us backing. That's number one. Number two, here's another.
But he's giving us words.
Dilemma.
He's giving us words.
No. But those words are very important because he will not penalize us. He's giving us weapons too, not just words. I'm sorry, no. And let me tell you something. What happens if on Saturday 3 dead hostages are returned?
No, that's against the deal. Then war's back on.
Really? The next 17 hostages, Hamas has said 8 are dead. So some of these returns are 8.
The deal says specifically they have to release the live people first. The deal said specifically start with the women and then the men. And once again, we saw the 3 men who were released just now, and we saw the state they were in. And I am very worried about the state of the other live people who will be coming out shortly. And I think we should all be worried. Who knows what gruesome things they've had to go
endure.
With.
We know.
But I still think the deal has been signed. If Hamas continues to release hostages in the framework of stage 1 of this deal, I think there has to be a very serious reason not to do so. Because once again, how many people have we got out? We got out all the live women apparently. So we have to presume that all the women who are left in this stage are unfortunately not among the living. And we've got apparently another 9 men that we can get out alive. That's also one of our war aims, to get the hostages out. Of course. I think there's no contradiction between, at this stage, prioritizing the hostages, and when we need to go back and finish off Hamas, we'll do that.
No, I agree that we have to save every life we can. I agree with that. But what I don't agree with is that Hamas is dictating that. Hamas said on Sunday or something, Hamas said, sorry, we're not returning hostages.
No, and if they don't do that.
No, but what I'm saying is.
If they don't do it, the war's back on.
But I mean, the minute they said that, we should have said, okay, no trucks going in. Don't you understand? They're calling the shots. And even you're saying.
So what you're saying.
If they do give us 3 back. Oh, thank you. Now we're not going to penalize them in any fashion. And, I understand, but they understand that's our dilemma. They know that we care about every human being who's in their clutches, dead and alive. They know that, and they see the protests, and Netanyahu sees them, and he knows that it breaks our hearts. That's why Hamas has the upper hand. You can say we'll win and we'll beat them and we'll that. No, as long as they have the upper hand, we haven't beat them. We haven't. And not only that, but you think all the jihadists in the world are saying, look, that's what you do. You take hostages from the West. especially Israel, especially because there are other Western countries, I think, that would not be as desperate over each single hostage. That's what you do. And it works because the mere thought of somebody being killed, an innocent person being killed, they can't take it. Not only that, soldiers as well. So what I'm saying to you is whatever happens here is no good. All right, because, but the good part was that Trump said, whatever you have to do, if you need to do it, whatever tough decision you need to make, go for it. And that means not once did he say no collateral damage in Gaza.
But
but
also not once did he explicitly say the current deal should be abandoned and Israel should go all out.
He basically said
basically it's inferred. That's why I think what are the communications between Jerusalem and Washington, what's privately being communicated, that's crucial, and I'm sure that will guide the Israeli government. Because if we're just getting Trump's strong words to tell Hamas, unless you keep releasing hostages, there's a problem, right? And with a capital P, in other words, it's pressure. It's like he says, all hell will break out. That helped us get the deal when he's in the first place. Or is he serious? And only that will be discussed privately.
Okay, but here's what I'm asking you again. Okay, so you say we have to save every life we can. Okay, so let's say 2 hostages are returned on Saturday, not 3.
That's broken the
deal.
Oh,
really? And then you say it's okay for us to go?
Yes, because that's a direct violation.
But then aren't you then endangering the rest of the hostages?
No, once again, there's a deal that has been signed.
But they've
Good
already
deal,
violated.
bad deal, it's been.
They've already violated the deal. They've already violated it.
By what?
By there are terrorists approaching the border, approaching the border fence.
We shoot them.
But they violated the deal. Also today, there was a drone. Okay.
So
they've already violated it. Anyway, that deal isn't worth the ink on the paper. It's
sorry, if we get people out of Gaza, you can't say the deal is not.
No,
worth
but as I said, what if? So there are 2, not 3.
You saw the soldiers out. You saw the civilian women who got out. Without the deal, they would still be in the clutches of Hamas.
Well, not if we had. Yes, that's. I'm delighted that they come home.
Okay, and it cost a price.
Okay, but you know something? Again, if Trump had been president a year ago, we would have been.
You're dealing with the real world.
You can't. So that's the real world. But what I'm saying to you is, what you're saying is, if 3 come home on Saturday, that's sufficient. If 2, we can go and
correct,
because
that's a violation. As long as there are 9 people, live people
at the end of the 6 weeks. Okay, so why not 9 live people this Saturday? Why not say to them,
that was
sorry,
not agreed to.
all the live
That was not agreed to.
Okay, but you know what? What agreement?
Trump was one of the people who was supporting the deal.
Yes, but now he said that he doesn't care about that deal. That announcement was clear.
He hasn't said that explicitly.
Oh, come on.
He hasn't said that. I'm telling you, but am I not correct, Ruthie, when I say let's trust the people who are speaking directly to Washington in those discreet conversations on the red phones so other people can't listen in? Aren't they understanding exactly what the Americans are saying and what they want? Because I am not sure. I think Trump's tough language is to make sure that Hamas understands it has to continue releasing hostages in accordance to the deal. That's what I understand. Now, if I understand wrong.
I do too.
Yeah, okay.
I do too understand that. But I also understood that he does not care whether we violate the deal. And I put that in quotes because that's insane. All right. What Hamas, just by Sunday announcing, no, we're not releasing hostages on Saturday, accusing us of violating the deal.
So I have a theory. I told you my theory about that. I think they got such negative feedback
from those
on the 3 hostages who were released. I know. They were embarrassed. They wanted to change the subject.
No, of course they did. But again, they're still going to have to return people who are looking like that. Or not. But you know what else? Get this. You know that Hamas announced that on Sunday. And you know what they did on Saturday when those 3 emaciated men, those poor men returned? You know where Hamas leaders were? In Iran, meeting with the Ayatollah Khamenei. And you know what he said to them? Good for you. He praised them. They went there to celebrate the anniversary of the Islamic Revolution in 79, and the Ayatollah Khamenei praised them for how they've been handling this. And then Sunday, they said, we're not releasing any. So you tell me that's not a violation of the deal? Come on, Mark.
So once again, from my perspective, the only important thing is, are they releasing people or not? And if they continue releasing people, we have a real dilemma, because then I think to break the deal, everything else is rubbish. Are they releasing hostages as they are committed to? I'm willing to tolerate all sorts of things. That's the only thing I'm unwilling to tolerate, because that's the only reason we did the deal in the first place, right? Everything else is secondary. I don't know. We're coming to the end of our broadcast and we've gone over time. Did you see that funny satirical skit on Israeli television this week where they had the International Committee of the Red Cross as an Uber driving service?
Drivers.
And I just want to make our viewers who haven't seen it, I believe it's all out there on social media, but the International Red Cross, whose role is to pick up our hostages from Hamas and take them to Israel, they've never been allowed to visit. They go to these ceremonies with Hamas as if they're, wanted. It really was a funny skit, but also a deadly criticism of the failure of the International Committee of the Red Cross to do anything with our hostages that have been for over a year now in captivity in Gaza.
Absolutely. These international institutions, and Trump is going after them, and good. Okay. They are appalling. They deserve no money. They are in cahoots with terrorists. UNRWA, UNIFIL, the Red Cross, they all have to be disbanded and restructured or something else. Get rid of all of those people. How dare they?
So
They're
I'm not
horrible.
sure I agree that get rid of all of them, but here the International Red Cross has to answer some difficult questions. And we'll be asking those questions when we meet again next week for the next edition of...
That's right, Mark. Looking forward to it.
Me too.